Jerry Jones saying this team is more equipped to make a run than last year's really jumped out to a lot of people across Cowboys Twitter, and I just don't know how you could legitimately, rationalize a decision like that or a take like that. So there's that, and I guess that is your Jerry optimism. He's always selling if his lips are moving.
Yeah, that's Jerry. But I thought was really interesting as well about was how he just immediately took shots, at guys that are no longer here.
Yeah.
With the players and stuff like that, and the availability and things, and that was the way he addressed it. But that's something that we had talked about ourselves here on the show. It was about he made moves because trying to change the culture, trying to guys he can trust. The more you dug into what was going on with Amari Cooper and Lyle Collins and stuff like that, the more you're like, man, there's a good shot these guys aren't going to be here anymore.
Yeah, when he was talking, he let out with those conversations about things that had been on his mind throughout the offseason, and I think he wanted to sort of give his take on why they let Collins and Cooper go specifically, and talking about how it's availability and not ability, and guys inside their top 10 of the payment structure. If you're making top 10 money on the team, you can't be missing a bunch of games for any reason.
No,
and I don't mind that standard at all. I like that standard. I do wonder what it means for Tyron and Tank if they have another injury-plagued season. Who could be next in that?
Zeke they talk about Zeke is available, but that's another contract you have to keep an eye on too after this season. So I appreciate him saying that. Also, the thing that he addressed about Mike McCarthy's job security, I think Jerry needs to just shut up about that. I think he needs to just not address it anymore. Because this is going to look bad for him if things don't work out. And then he has to make a change. Just let it go. I mean, if someone wants to ask a question about it, Mike's our coach right now. We're happy with Mike being here. We're getting ready for this season.
You do have to sit through a lot of spin, don't you?
Yeah,
I wish they'd be more transparent.
Jerry feels terrible that Mike had to go on national media, national radio shows, and defend. And I was having a discussion with folks on Twitter. Mike McCarthy took this job because he didn't have a job. Mike McCarthy didn't know what it's like to work for the Dallas Cowboys. He knows what it is now, though. He knows. He's got a general manager that talks after every single game, regardless.
And the next day.
And the next day.
3 days after that.
So that's, if Mike, people are like, oh, no, that's a stupid statement. McCarthy knew. No, he didn't. He did not. But Mike knows now. Mike knows now that, listen, okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
That man to my left is the star here. It ain't me and it ain't these players. That's the guy right there. And Jerry, every time he talks about McCarthy, it seems like he's trying to make amends. Mike McCarthy is already damaged. He knows what you think of him. Okay. And if Mike doesn't have success, then he's not going to be here anymore. I don't care how many years he's got left on his contract. Mm-hmm. Jerry Jones is about to turn 80 years old in October. That we don't have time anymore. We don't have time anymore.
Seemed like just yesterday he was turning 70.
Yeah. And I understand Jerry's desire and just feeling that hey, I need to come out of the gates, and before you even ask me a question, I want to address this. I get it. Hey, I'm getting to the mic. I'm going to say what's on my mind, and hopefully that's him kind of putting it to bed. I don't imagine he's going to talk about Amari Cooper and Lyle Collins and these guys anymore. He had a couple of things he wanted to fire off, let the people know, and I would hope that he's probably not, unless he's provoked. I don't imagine he's really going to be talking much about that anymore. But the idea that he's talking about this team being more ready to win or whatever it is right now, and the outlook of this team, it can only be just from an intangible factor, right? Of just exactly what you were saying about having guys that are here that are going to practice every day, Amari, or are not going to screw up Lyle Collins and get suspended and then screw up even more and get suspended for additional games and show up after the COVID year with a hip issue and out of shape and that kind of stuff. That's the only thing he can be talking about. It's certainly not a talent. It's not a talent basis that he's making that statement.
I think he had more of a problem with Amari Cooper than he did Lyle Collins.
Which is so funny because it's not like Amari Cooper missed that many games.
Amari Cooper, the whole thing with the vaccine stuff and the fact that remember how
that's true.
Remember how
that
was a hot point for everybody in the league.
And they were already heading in that direction last year. Yeah.
Sure.
Going into the year, they wanted a big year from Amari because it's been underwhelming in the practice department and all that.
They told him, we need a big year for him.
I'll tell you what, though, Brian, I think they made the right decision here. We saw Amari slowing down last year because the collection of his injuries prevented him from staying in shape. So he's showing up not with legs and feet and all that have been like maximized throughout an off season. He's showing up with legs that have, to an extent atrophied. You've lost muscle mass because you're unable to explode because of the feet problems, that continue to plague him and prevent him from practicing. So I think while it sucks that they lost Amari Cooper, this is one of those decisions that I think ultimately the Cowboys are going to look good on.
I hope you're right about that. I think long term you might be, but you're going to need a Tolbert to step up. You're going to need big stuff out of CeeDee Lamb because as it stands right now, the Amari contract with all the wide receiver numbers that got thrown around, it doesn't look like it was that big of a deal.
Oh, no. This isn't on Amari anymore. This is on the general manager who made the decision to get rid of Amari. So if Jerry Jones does not replace Amari Cooper, because if Amari Cooper is not replaced and the offense struggles or the receivers look bad or they can't get it going or it was like that what it was when it was receiver by committee, that's on the GM. And I'm going to go right after the GM for that. Because if you're going to make a decision to get rid of a guy because you don't feel like that he's giving you everything he can because he's not available, now, okay, you got rid of him. Now it's your job to go get somebody. Don't let this offense die. And maybe it will die. Maybe it will die because of Kellen Moore and others. But if it dies because the wide receiver plays bad, that's on the general manager right there. Yeah, and if he just says, "Oh, everything's going to be fine," and Tolbert's going to be fine, if we get out there and we start to see it's not fine, I hope that he makes
it wasn't okay. So it wasn't great last year with Amari. He had like 10 games, if you include the ones he missed, where it was 3 catches or less.
That's why. We talk about the players, but we point out about the coaches here. Joe Philbin, you're on watch. Doug Nussmeier, you're on watch. Bobby Belt and I talked about it this morning on our podcast. Do they miss? Having the coaches that were here before that were helping Dak and stuff like that, that's where I kind of feel like John Kitna was the name I was looking for there, but to me this is where if you're going to make moves and affect the team because you have to because you feel like availability and all that, then damn well you better make moves when it doesn't look good not having guys. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work, if the offensive line doesn't work, if the receivers doesn't work, then now the general manager needs to look at the coaching staff. And they used to say, well, we need to make changes here. We need to make a change here because it's not going to get better with these guys just standing up here and telling us, oh, well, this summer we did this and we, that.
Yeah. No, and that all makes plenty of sense. I think with the Amari thing, when you look at some of the numbers that he had last year, how much of that was, Amari would tell you could tell by the comments he made about CeeDee Lamb, if Kellen Moore wants to get him involved.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper will probably tell you, I wasn't used properly. I wasn't used right. I was here. I showed up. I'm fine. I'm still running great routes. I can still catch the ball.
But he didn't
How many
practice.
targets am I getting?
He didn't practice. See, that's the whole thing about availability. If you don't practice, how could I use you as part of the game plan? He spit the bit at the Jets game. When he said he had the thigh problem, he tried to play the game. We last 5 plays.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
See, that's what I'm saying. If you're going in every week, and this is where I'm giving Kellen Moore maybe a little credit. How do you say, okay, I'm going to use you, Amari. I'm going to make you the focal point of the offense today, but you don't damn practice.
I'll pick up the phone and I'll call whoever was running the Giants when they won their Super Bowl. And Plaxico Burress was a huge reason why, and he had an ankle injury all year, and he just never practiced, and he showed up on Sunday and just kicked everybody's ass.
Yeah, there are guys like that.
And it's like, okay, well, who's your next option? Who's going to have the big year? Okay, so Amari's not practicing. Well, on Sunday, is he still the best guy? Because CeeDee Lamb is how many 3-catch games? CeeDee Lamb hasn't found an end zone since before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, it's like, okay, that's fine. You can be upset at Amari. And honestly, if I'm a teammate, I'm looking at Amari a little side-eyed as well. Hey, you're not practicing. But, hey, on Sunday, he's here. And what do you want to do? Do you want to throw it to Noah Brown?
Yeah.
Like, who do you want to get involved?
I get it.
I think
But
the big
OC
thing is they made their decision on Amari Cooper well before the season ended. He's not getting the vaccine.
Yeah.
You can go back to when they gave him the extension, and you circled this offseason as the one that they can get out of it. They knew from the jump, and they're telling him, Amari, you better have a big year.
Yeah.
Well, watch what we're going to do to your big year. We're going to give you 800 yards because that's what we're going to give you because you've rubbed us the wrong way. There's plenty of guys in the NFL that don't practice for anything.
Yeah.
But they show up on Sunday and the coach says, well, he's still my best guy. Give me the best chance to win.
Is that on the OC or is that on the player?
Well, that's because he's hurt. He can't perform like he once did. I think he's a tough player. I don't think
there's no question. I think he's a tough player.
You got that scene of him rolling on the sidelines, the tennis ball. He's doing everything in his power to play through hamstrings and all kinds of stuff. And plantar fasciitis is no joke. That's like for a lot of athletes, it never goes away, and you're constantly trying to perform while feeling like someone's jabbing a knife into the bottom of your foot. That's what he's trying to play through, and I think he was a hero and a warrior, but it's for a lot of players. By the time you're in your late 20s, your collection of injuries is holding you back way too much. And I think that's where Amari Cooper is right now. And I think the Cowboys are making the right decision. You could throw out the COVID stuff and the practice stuff. Just look at how he tried to escape from defensive backs last year.
Oh, no, there's no question.
It was like a little bit of quicksand, a little bit of sluggishness.
But the fact that he doesn't practice, I think, was a big part of this, too.
Yes. Why can't he practice? Because he's hurt.
Yeah, but
it's not like he's wanting to mail it in. Amari's a professional. Amari's tough.
Yeah, he's tough, but then all of a sudden you can't rely on him on the game because the coordinator doesn't know. Okay, well, I haven't practiced this with this guy. Yeah. He's a veteran guy. It's not like it's a rookie player,
right?
But he's been in the league 7 years. What he can do.
I know absolutely what he can do. The thing about it is, I don't know. Like I say, I go back to my mind as a coordinator. I'm looking at the damn Jets game where he spit the bit.
Yeah. Well, no. Did he spit the bit, or did he try to play, think he could power through it, and then he was like, "Wow, the pain's more than I thought." Sorry, coach.
But
I tried.
That's okay. Okay, spit the bit. I'm sorry. I apologize. Bad use of words there. But the fact that he showed up, tried to play, and now the coordinator's like, "Oh, damn, who am I going to throw it to now?" Because the game plan is based around Amari Cooper routes.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I'm defending Kellen Moore.
That's why the team was smart for getting rid of him. They're like, dang it, this ain't working. We've tried, and it's getting worse. Yeah. Every month that we've had Amari Cooper, it just progressively gets worse. We got to move on from it. Mm-hmm. And maybe it is Kellen's fault, or maybe it's Dak's fault. I don't know exactly how you assign all of that blame. I just think it was the right decision to move on. And Jerry talking about availability as a priority for this team, I love it. When I first started covering this team 12, 13 years ago, Brian, they were in love with injured players.
Oh, yeah.
And tried to pretend like it was just bad luck.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting a super injured player. He's probably not going to have any more. He's already been so unlucky. Now we get him in the second or third round or cheap in free agency and put him to work. Well, guess what? He kept getting hurt again. And now they do seem to have a good a grasp on what it takes to manage that availability. Better grasp.
Better grasp.
Still a work in progress.